Hold a glass cup in your hand. Now, let it slip through your fingers. Watch it smash against the hard floor. Shards of glass scatter everywhere. The water splashes across the tiles. It is a chaotic, irreversible mess. Now sit there and wait. Wait for the shards to suddenly lift off the ground. Wait for the water to perfectly gather itself back into a sphere. Wait for the glass to seamlessly fuse back together and fly upward, landing perfectly whole right back into your palm. You know it is never going to happen. It is common sense. Your brain tells you that time only moves in one direction. The past is gone, the future is coming, and broken things stay broken. But you are fundamentally, terrifyingly wrong. The most profound, most unbreakable laws of physics completely disagree with your common sense. If you look at the fundamental equations of the universe, gravity, electromagnetism, the forces holding your atoms together, they do not have an arrow of time. They work the exact same way backward as they do forward. The universe does not actually care about the past or the future. So, if the math says time is reversible, why does your life only move in one direction? Why do you age? Why do things break? Today I'm going to show you the cruelest law in the universe. You are going to learn that it isn't the laws of physics stopping that glass from reassembling itself. It is pure, insurmountable, terrifying mathematical probability. Welcome to the real arrow of time. Your reality is about to shatter. Let me show you. Let us start with the great deception of your everyday life. You look at the world and you see obvious, undeniable irreversibility. You burn a log of wood and it turns into smoke and ash. You cannot take smoke and ash and unburn it back into a piece of wood. You scramble an egg and you cannot unscramble it. Because of this, you naturally assume that there is a clock ticking inside the fabric of the universe. You assume there is a physical law that forces matter to only move forward. But physicists have searched the deepest bedrock of reality for this one-way street, and we cannot find it. Take gravity, for example. Imagine you have a camera in deep space, and you take a video of the Earth orbiting the Sun. The Earth goes around in a smooth, massive ellipse. Now take that video and play it backward. What do you see? You see the Earth moving around the Sun in the exact opposite direction. If you showed that backward video to a brilliant physicist, they would look at it and say, yes, that is perfectly fine. The backward orbit obeys Isaac Newton's laws of gravity flawlessly. It obeys Albert Einstein's curved space-time flawlessly. There is absolutely nothing in the mathematics of gravity that forbids the Earth from going the other way. Gravity is blind to the flow of time. The same is true for electromagnetism. The same is true for the strong nuclear force. If you reverse the velocities of every particle in a system, they will simply undo everything they just did, tracing their steps backward with absolute mathematical perfection. So if the bedrock laws of the universe work perfectly in reverse, where does the one-way street come from? Take a deep breath. Hold it for a second. Now exhale. You just inhaled structured oxygen, and you exhaled a chaotic mix of carbon dioxide. To understand why you can never get that exact breath of air back, we have to look at a drop of ink. Imagine a glass tank perfectly divided down the middle. On the left side, you have dark blue ink. On the right side, you have pure, clear water. You slowly, carefully lift the divider away. At first, the blue is distinctly on the left and the clear water is on the right. But as you watch, the blue slowly bleeds into the white. The edges blur, the colors mix. If you wait an hour, the entire tank is just a uniform, cloudy, pale blue. If you sat there for 10 years waiting for the pale blue water to magically separate itself back into dark ink on the left and clear water on the right, it would never happen. Why? Is it against the laws of physics? Let's shrink down. Let's become the size of a single molecule and look at exactly what happens when the ink and the water mix. You see a blue ink molecule flying through the tank. It violently smashes into a clear water molecule. They bounce off each other and fly away in new directions. Now, take a video of that single microscopic collision. Play it backward. What happens? The two molecules fly toward each other from opposite directions, smash together, and bounce back exactly where they came from. If you show that backward collision to our physicists, they will tell you it is perfectly legal. The backward collision completely obeys the laws of physics. Every single microscopic bounce, every single molecular crash is perfectly reversible. And this is the paradox that drove early scientists absolutely crazy. If every single tiny collision inside the tank is perfectly capable of running backward, why doesn't the whole tank run backward? Why doesn't the ink unmix? The answer is the most brutal, unforgiving truth in all of science. It is called statistical mechanics. The ink does not unmix because of the numbers. Think about how many ways you can arrange the molecules in that tank. To have all the blue ink perfectly separated on the left side, every single blue molecule must be in exactly the right place. There are very few ways to arrange the atoms to achieve that perfect order. But how many ways can the tank be a messy, mixed-up pale blue cloud? Billions, trillions, numbers so impossibly huge that they break the human mind. Imagine I hand you a brand new deck of playing cards. They are perfectly ordered. Hearts, spades, diamonds, clubs. Ace to king, you take the deck and you shuffle it once. The order is broken. You shuffle it again. It becomes a mess. You shuffle it 100 times. Is it physically impossible for you to accidentally shuffle the deck back into its perfect original ace to king order? No, it is not impossible. It does not violate any laws of physics. It is just so unbelievably, terrifyingly unlikely that it will never ever happen. You could stand there shuffling that deck every second of every day for 1 trillion years, and you would almost certainly never see the perfect order return. This is exactly what is happening inside the tank of water. And this is exactly what is happening to the broken glass on your floor. The universe is constantly shuffling the deck. The atoms are constantly jiggling, bouncing, and colliding. When the glass falls and shatters, the atoms are moved from a highly specific organized state, a cup, into a massively disorganized state, a million shattered pieces. Can the pieces reassemble? Yes. If by some miraculous, impossible accident the trillions of vibrating atoms in the floor perfectly synchronized their jiggling, if they all bounced upward at the exact same fraction of a nanometer of a second, they could physically push the glass fragments back into the air. The atoms in the glass could perfectly align and fuse. It does not violate the laws of physics. It is just a statistical absurdity. It would not happen in a timescale 1 trillion times longer than the current age of the universe. This natural slide from order to disorder has a name. It is the most famous concept in thermodynamics. Entropy. Entropy is a measure of messiness. It is a measure of how many ways you can rearrange the parts of a system without changing how it looks overall. And the second law of thermodynamics states that the total entropy of an isolated system can never decrease. The universe always moves from order to chaos. It always moves from the separated ink to the mixed water. This is the only reason you experience the flow of time. Time is not a river. Time is just your brain observing the inescapable mathematical degradation of the universe. But what about friction? What about heat? If I take a heavy wooden block and slide it across the floor, it eventually stops. That looks like a one-way street. The block doesn't suddenly absorb heat from the floor and launch itself forward, right? But what is actually happening when the block slides? The organized forward motion of the block's atoms is scraping against the atoms of the floor. That scraping causes the atoms in the floor to jiggle chaotically. And chaotic atomic jiggling is what we call heat. The organized motion of the block has been translated into the disorganized, chaotic heat of the floor. For the block to suddenly shoot forward again, all those billions of randomly jiggling atoms in the floor would have to accidentally coordinate their movement, push in the exact same direction simultaneously, and launch the block. Again, mathematically possible. Statistically impossible. The organized energy has become lost in the noise. The universe has taken your useful energy and scattered it to the wind. And this is where we have to talk about you. About your life, your memory, and your biological machine. Why do you only remember the past? Why don't you have memories of tomorrow? Because memory itself is a process of increasing entropy. To form a memory, your brain must consume energy. It burns glucose. It permanently rearranges the chemical structure of your neurons. To create a tiny bit of organized information inside your head, a memory of what you ate for breakfast, your body had to release a massive amount of disorganized heat and waste out into the universe. You cannot remember the future because the universe has not shuffled those cards yet. You are a machine that consumes order and leaves behind chaos, and your perception of time is simply the exhaust fumes of that process. But wait, the skeptics are already screaming. If the universe always goes from order to chaos, what about life? What about a seed growing into a complex, highly ordered tree? What about me cleaning my messy bedroom? I just reversed entropy. No, you didn't. You just shifted the perspective. When you clean your room, you are creating local order. You're organizing your clothes, making your bed, stacking your books. But what did it cost? It cost you energy. You burned calories. You sweated. You exhaled carbon dioxide. You radiated body heat into the room. If you look at the entire system, you, the room, and the air around you, the tiny bit of order you created in your closet is vastly overshadowed by the massive amount of chaotic thermal energy you dumped into the universe. The total entropy still went up. The universe is still dying. You just made a tiny temporary bubble of neatness at the expense of everything else. But this raises the ultimate, most terrifying question in all of cosmology. If the universe is a clock that is constantly winding down, if everything is relentlessly shuffling from order to chaos, how did it get ordered in the first place? Who organized the deck of cards before the shuffling began? If you see a perfectly divided tank of water with dark ink on the left and clear water on the right, you know someone had to carefully set it up that way. When we look out into the universe, we see stars separated from cold space. We see highly ordered galaxies. We see a universe that still has plenty of organized, useful energy left to burn. This means that in the distant past, the universe must have been in a state of impossibly low entropy. It must have been perfectly, beautifully organized. And 14 billion years ago, at the exact moment of the Big Bang, the great shuffling began. Every single thing that happens, every star that burns, every planet that forms, every heartbeat in your chest, every thought in your brain is just the universe slowly unwinding. We are coasting on the momentum of that initial mysterious state of perfect order, and eventually it will all end. Trillions of years from now, all the stars will burn out. All the energy will be evenly distributed. The entire universe will be one uniform, lukewarm, gray soup. No order, no light, no life. When the universe reaches maximum entropy, nothing will ever happen again. Because without a difference between order and chaos, time itself effectively ceases to exist. This is a heavy existential realization, but it is also the most practical rule you can ever apply to your daily life. Because entropy is not just a law of physics, it is a law of human behavior. If you leave a relationship alone, it doesn't get stronger. It decays. If you leave a business alone, it doesn't get more efficient. It collapses into chaos. If you leave your health alone, your body degrades. Without the active, intentional injection of energy, everything you care about will naturally slide into disorder. To help you fight back against the physics of the universe, I have created something for you. I call it the Entropy Audit Framework. It is a free, downloadable system designed to help you identify where the mathematical decay is happening in your life, your work, or your focus. It forces you to map out exactly where your energy is bleeding into chaos and gives you a 3-step checklist to inject targeted local order back into your systems. If you want to stop coasting and start building, you need to understand how to fight entropy. You can download it right now. The link is the very first thing in the description below. Get it and start fighting the decay. So let us go back to the broken glass on the floor. The past can never return. The mathematical probability of the universe forbids it. But you shouldn't look at that broken glass with despair. You should look at it with profound, overwhelming awe. You exist in a fleeting, miraculous window of cosmic history. You live in the tiny sliver of time after the perfect order of the Big Bang, but before the cold, dark, maximum chaos of the end. You get to experience the unwinding. You get to witness the stars burning, the planets spinning, and the fragile temporary beauty of complex life. The arrow of time is a one-way street into oblivion, but it is the only reason anything happens at all. You cannot unbreak the glass. You cannot travel back to yesterday. But you can appreciate the magnificent, chaotic, irreversible explosion of existence happening right now. And that is far more beautiful than a universe that stays perfectly whole forever. Do not forget to download your free copy of the Entropy Audit Framework in the description below. Stop letting the physics of chaos dictate your life and learn to actively build order where it matters most. If this video successfully broke your common sense and shattered your understanding of time, hit the subscribe button. Your brain wants to go back to the comfortable illusion of the ticking clock. Don't let it. We have a lot more terrifying physical laws to dismantle. I will see you in the next one.